So welcome everyone. I'm happy to be able to present a talk here with you and share some insight on how to select sales talents online. My name is Diddo Van Zand. I'm from the Netherlands. Yeah, it's unfortunate that we cannot meet in real life, maybe some next time, but as I said, this is probably the best solution for now. If you have any comments or questions, please use the chat function and I will try to answer as swiftly as possible. Just to introduce myself, my name is Diddo Van Zand. I started in sales when I was 14 years old or something. A friend of mine, his grandfather was importing toys, and among those were Chinese kites, and they were quite new back then. And I started selling those on school, but also in the shop of my parents. So that was my very first sales experience, and I've been involved in sales ever since, as a sales trainer, coach, and of course I've been selling myself. But the last 20 years I've been working in HR consultancy and psychometrics. I love data, and I love how to measure competencies, personality, etc., and to use that for talent management in particular. We'll go into that in more detail. And I'm the CEO and founder of Ixly. Our mission is to help organizations, but also people, to take better career decisions based on information, so that you get more job satisfaction and help your organization to be more successful. And we do that with tests, behavioral analysis, data analysis, etc. And of course, this is all online, which makes it very practical. We like to use data science. That's not always possible. So sometimes I will go into that deeper. But these are the kind of questions that we help our organizations with. And that leads to hiring efficiency, more engagement, better performance, and retention. So let me go into the talk right now. We have a problem. I like to think about a problem, or you could also say challenge, and then to go into what is now the best solution to handle this. And the problem we want to address is we want to hire successful sales persons, but we have to do so online. So how do you go about that? And I want to talk about this in more depth. To start with, what defines a potential successful salesperson? We all have a certain image of the how a salesperson looks like this second-hand car seller. We have an idea, a persona in our mind of what constitutes a salesperson. But this image, more often than not, is hindering us sometimes in selecting the best salesperson, because it's not the image that does the selling, it's the person that does the selling. And often it's not the most likely candidate who is actually the best candidate, but they're better in introducing themselves and portraying an image than actually being successful. We have done a research with a sales company, and they had some 100 salespeople. And what we found out is that while there was a correlation between the actual success in terms of revenue and sales and client satisfaction with the judgment of the manager of these persons, actually there was more correlation between the sales image that the manager had of a person than the actual sales. So even within a company, sales managers are sometimes blinded by an image of a salesperson instead of the real behavior, real results. And what we do a lot is, when somebody applies for a job, is we look at prior success. Because we think if someone projects an image of himself as a successful salesperson and can substantiate that probably with prior experiences, then we think that this person will be also very successful within our company. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. And also, the problem is experienced salespeople with proven track records are scarce. And also the question is, why did they leave? Sometimes you see people who have job after job claiming to be successful, but that leave after a year, 2 years, and they build up a career like that. And then the question arises, why did they leave? Most people learn how to talk about their leave as their own choice and have logical explanations. But sometimes these basically don't reflect what's really happened. And probably among those people, I'm not blaming everyone, of course, there are some people who are basically fakers. So we cannot, the challenge really is to discover the real talent. What is the real talent of the person? If you cannot always trust their history. And that is a challenge even is bigger now with COVID and having to work online. But we do have solutions for that. So I want to take with you in the iceberg model and how to test people using this model. And the iceberg model has been used since Freud in the psychology. So we love to think on what's above the surface and what's below the surface. On top of the surface is what you want to achieve as results. You want to have tangible, sales. You want to have revenue. You want to have clients that are satisfactory, that are very happy with your company and your products, and stay with you. Yeah, the recurring business is very important for every organization. That if you have a client, that they stay being a client. And to achieve that, you need the right behavior from your salespeople. Not only your salespeople, everyone who is in contact with the client, and also, of course, the product has a place there. This relationship between the behavior of the salesperson and the results that they get is immensely influenced also by the boss. For some 70%, the effectiveness of a person is determined by the behavior of the boss. And so if you look at your organization, always also look at the effectiveness of the manager, because they can destroy an effective salesperson, or they can bring the best out of people. And the main results, main focus should also be on selecting the right sales managers. And also the organizational culture, the way it's built, the way things transpire, the products that you actually have, they also have an influence on the relationship between the behavior of the salespersons and the results. In sales, we also have to deal with competition. We're not, we don't operate in a ideal world where you most probably, unless you maybe Google or something, you have competitors, and they also operate, in ways that can be hampering your business, and you have to deal with that as well. But for the sake of the presentation will go deeper into the behavior of the salesperson. How do you find the right talents who will, in your organization, show the right behaviors to achieve results? And the first layer below the waterline, you look at the competencies someone has, the experience, the motivation, the will to achieve. And this layer is basically what you delve into a job interview. You're looking at the experience somebody has in your market, in the type of product, in the type of sales roles that somebody had. And you try to find out what are the hidden competencies. Is someone very good at presentations? Is somebody very good at convincing other people? Is someone very good at achieving results in negotiations? So for your job, you have to find out what are the competencies that I really need, and then in the interview try to establish if a person has those competencies. Also, motivation is very important. What are you really going for? What is it really that you want to achieve? And if it's a structured and a long time motivation, most probably that shows in different jobs. The thing I'd like to ask for motivation is what was the moment in your prior job that you were most happy? And then they'll talk about it. And then the question that is very important is, what made you so happy? And the what made you happy or energetic or feel positive, what they say next is probably really deep their motivation. It was a result, it was the challenge, it was the collaboration, it was outwitting someone, it was whatever. The bonus maybe, and that makes for a good interview. So you have to really go into the competencies that someone shows and the motivation. But these again, this layer, there's a layer deeper behind that, and that's where we like to go into. So most of the time, the intelligence, personality, and drives of a salesperson make it work or make it fail. And at that level, you can almost predict the talent and also, in the end, the results of the person. So we go deeper into that aspect in the intelligence, personality, and drives. But to consider, if you take all these factors into account, there are some 250 plus variables to take into account. And for people, that's very hard. So we can work with some 7 variables in our head. So it's overwhelming if you have to look at 25 personality dimensions, 20 drive dimensions, some 5 intelligence factors, motivation, etc. Competencies, there are some 40 competencies that you can go into, and that's overwhelming. So people, when they make selections, they have a 50-50 chance of success. So about 50% of the hires done without any backing of testing, etc., leads to about a 50% failure. Some people do it better when they have very structured interviewing, but there's a large churn rate in salespeople who leave the job within a year because they're not as effective as expected. So how to go about this? And if you look at predicting talent, and that's where we come in, you can go into what is said like general predictors and specific predictors and database predictors. And I want to go into those a bit deeper to tell a bit about this. There are some general predictors that in work psychology have been proven over and over again for a wide variety of jobs. And if you have nothing else, then this is the best to go by. And there are 3 aspects to this. One is the sales personality type. I'll go into that a bit deeper. The intelligence of the salespersons, and also the right set of drives. The sales personality type, extraversions plays a major role. We all know this, of course, that you need to be some level of extraversion, but also it's not for all roles you need to have very high extraversion. We see in some of our data sets that an intermediate level of extraversion is actually enough. Because if you're too extroverted, sometimes you talk too much, you're too dominant, and that takes on an adverse reaction with your clients. So the most effective salesperson are somewhere from the middle to the 75%. And they're dominant, they're present, but not too over-dominant and overly communicating, and because some clients won't like that, and they will be charmed perhaps, they will be silent, but they won't buy. And so extroversion is a double-edged sword. You need extroversion, but you don't need too much of it. And especially if you look at dominance, that's below, but you need to balance dominance with empathy. So you need people who are understanding of the other, who can feel where the other is and what the client really wants and what's bothering them. And so the dominance should be there, but in balance with empathy. The other factors, achievement, motivation, and competitiveness. More is better, basically. You want to have people who really are motivated to achieve and who are really looking into things from a competitive angle. They want to win, and they want to win all the time. But again, here it's very important to look at the sales cycle. In some sales cycles, you have a one-time shot to close a deal, but in other businesses, sometimes you have to have a lead time of half a year or more. And sometimes the competitiveness can also be in the way. So some people need success every day, and some jobs that's perfect. But in other jobs, sales jobs, you have a longer cycle. You maybe close maybe 5 deals a year or something, and then you need this achievement motivation to continue. So the competitiveness is I want to win now, and the achievement motivation is also, I want to achieve this in long term. And you have to look at that in your sales force, in your business. What is the right mix, and how does this interplay with the other factors? Flexibility is also extremely important. You have to be able to go with the client. There are lots of sales forces use scripts and negotiation steps, etc., as a tool. But while that's very helpful most of the time, as a salesperson, you need to be able to note when it works and when it doesn't work, and to be flexible in your thinking and in your strategies. And you can look into that in the interview, but also with tests. Another interesting point is initiative. Yes, we need people with a lot of initiative, very action-oriented. But we've noticed in a lot of data that too much impulsiveness is counterproductive. So yes, you need people who say, okay, I'll go do that, and I want to step in that, and then, I'll think of another initiative, and if this doesn't work, I try something else. But some structuredness, counterbalancing initiative is also very helpful. You have to know when to follow up, when to document your sales conversations. So the most effective people have a lot of initiative, but also a little bit of structure. Not too much. You don't need to be an accountant or something, but it helps to have your actions planned and follow the plan and follow up on the plan. Also, what's extremely important are positive emotions and attitude. We all know in sales you have to deal with a no sometimes. Like this morning, I lost a deal. Of course, I was angry and frustrated and upset, but I have a talk with them in an hour, and I have to, recuperate, come back with a smile, and see what's there to be achieved after this no, because that's when selling starts, in my opinion. So you need people who are, can deal with setbacks, frustrations, and, pop up again and have positive attitude. And that's something that's really quite easy to measure. A lot more problems are in the area of integrity. Integrity is something in salespersons is also very complicated. The best salespersons are not saints. So if you say, in the integrity scale, you have people who are almost saints. They do everything the right way all the time. Have a very high standards of integrity, and that can be helpful. And then you have the real thieves and thugs, etc., and the psychopaths. To give you an idea, about 3% of the population are psychopaths. Not all of them are in prison. Some of them actually are CEO of a big company, but having those kind of people on board is really a possible danger to your company, because they will sell things that are inappropriate or use tactics that are inappropriate, or they will steal from you. In one of my first jobs, there was a salesperson and he got really good results. So year after year, like 2 consecutive years, he was on the top salesperson of that company, until they found out why. And the reason that he was so successful was that he bribed the secretaries that any promising lead that would come up, he got that deal, he got that client and that lead. So he was presented the most promising leads. So when they found that out, all hell broke loose, of course, because the rest of the sales team, they didn't want to work there anymore. They thought it was a hassle, and a lot of negative things transpired after that came out. And also, some salespersons can be very dangerous to the company. For one, I know a Dutch company supplied weapons via another country to Iran at a certain point, when that was forbidden from also the European legislation, but I think worldwide. And so that came out in at a certain point, and that company went broke because they were out of business. With a lot of their clients didn't want to work with them anymore. So integrity is something to take into account. You want people who are maybe not the saints, who do everything by the book all the time, but you need people of high integrity. And people of low integrity actually can ruin your business. And all these things are testable. So you can use the personality tests, motivation tests, etc., integrity tests. They're not used that much, integrity tests. Most HR people find it very difficult to take that into account and to be able to talk with their applicants about integrity. It's sometimes, hard to tell someone, well, in our moral integrity scales, you show up in the mid area or in the low area, and that can be quite upsetting for people, and that's also the reason why HR people find it difficult to bring that subject up sometimes. But I would recommend to do so, because you can really save your company from a lot of bad experiences. Another general predictor which comes up again and again and again is intelligence. And with salespeople, it's mainly verbal intelligence, but also abstract reasoning. And verbal intelligence, of course, is very easy to understand. You have to talk, and you have to talk things that make sense. And to understand also what the other persons are saying. And a lot of documentation you need to understand, basically. And apart from verbal intelligence, there's also abstract reasoning or problem solving. I don't know about you, but I've experienced quite some problems in my sales processes. And I think you need to be creative and to find solutions that are sometimes, not so, how to say, you need to think deeper sometimes to find a solution that would work for the client. You need to be creative. But the level of intelligence that you need is also dependent on the product, the complexity of the product. Is it a consultancy product? Is it a very simple product, standard product? But also the intelligence of the buyers. Ideally, you want to have a salesperson who is as intelligent or a little bit more intelligent than the client. You need to be able to outwit your client, basically. And there's one company that I worked for a lot in the past, and they, in their applicant selection, they applied a rule that anybody who fell below the 25% cutoff score in the compared to people with a bachelor degree, they were not selected. Standard, whatever the other scores, whatever the motivation, whatever, etc. And they did that for more than 20 years, and now they're market leader. Because their account managers, their salespeople, are just that little bit smarter than the other ones. And that leads to a 2 to 5% more growth in their business than with the competitors. But if you repeat that time after time after time, then it won't take long and you're the market leader. So if you have the choice, and if it's possible, I would just have a simple intelligence test in place and use that. But you have to establish what the level of intelligence is that you need for your clients and for your product. And that's something that is quite easy to find out and rather easy to test as well. Only takes like 30 minutes and then you know. So those are the general predictors: drives, personality, intelligence, and these are true for every sales job. And you have to fine-tune that maybe a bit to your situation. But you know, it's very easy to use and leads to a lot of success, enhances your success by much. Then there are some specific predictors that you might want to look into. Culture fit is one. Known success factors in your business environment. If you've worked in your business for some time, you have a feeling for this as well. And so that's great to look into. And then you might look into specific sales roles. First of all, I want to talk about culture fit. The culture fit is not that you all have to look the same and wear the same clothes. No, it's about shared values, belief, and goals. And this is, I think, very, very important to know what the values are of your companies, what are the beliefs and the goals, and so you can incorporate that into your selection process. Also, you can look into specific sales roles. For instance, what I mentioned earlier, are you someone who sells existing products to existing markets? Are you have to sell new products to new markets? That requires different personalities and a different achievement motivation. And you might want to look into that as well. So I'll like to continue here to talk a bit about how to approach this. If you have your sales team together and you talk about, okay, what are the key factors that make us successful? What are the specific competencies, the specific personality aspects? And you can use that then above the general predictors to have a more detailed and more applied model for your company, for your the jobs that you have, and that can really enhance it. You might want to follow that up and look into your team and say after a year, were our assumptions right? Is it actually true what we thought of, that the factors in play were actually important? So reviewing your model for the success model of your salespeople, in my opinion, you need to reanalyze that every year, because the market might change, the conditions might change, your assumption might have been false, and you might want to test that against the data that you have. Now, the last area that I want to go into are the database predictors. So this is unfortunately only possible for larger companies, and larger meaning you need about 100 successful salespeople right now. What are the salespeople in your company that are successful, and we want to analyze those. That's not available for all organizations. We know this. But if you have this number of people, yes, we can help you to have a database profile. And what's also helpful is performance information and performance indicators. So for those 100 people, are there indicators to determine who is more and who is less successful? And that's really, really a problem for many organizations. They don't have a lot of information about the revenue scored, etc., the deals. And there are lots of sales management systems now that do give this information. And if it's available, we like to use that to analyze who is actually the better performing salesperson. And yeah, and what I said earlier, what's most interesting is that sometimes the opinion of the manager, which is used a lot to determine the amount of success salespeople have, is really not that accurate, not that valid, because some of the time they are prejudiced a bit in they have their images of who is successful. Maybe they like someone better than another. And so if you have data, that's really helpful. For some companies, we just basically say that, well, everyone who works there more than a year apparently didn't perform that bad. So we turn it around because they didn't perform that bad that they had to leave. And that basic assumption helps, because you can analyze the people who are staying for longer than a year. What differentiates those people from the general sales population? What are the specific factors that are in place here? Then what we then do is to send out an online assessment to those 100 people, and of course combine that with the performance information indicators that we have, and then we build a model. We analyze the data and trying to predict what factors are there in place that predict success. And if possible, we try to use artificial intelligence in that data set. And we start with both, like the traditional statistics, because they are more robust, they are more, how would I say, more general relationships than AI. And so they give a basic model that helps you to understand who are successful and who are less successful. For instance, in one company, we found out that competitiveness was key, that they, on a scale from 1 to 10, everybody who was successful had 8, 9, or 10. A 7, a moderate degree of competitiveness in their business, was not helpful. So if we use the general model, then you might say, well, a 7 for competitiveness is okay. He has other things to compensate there. But in our model, it shows no. It's very, cutoff point is 8. So you have to have that. And that was very helpful to identify a successful salesperson, but also to help the managers to rethink their implicit model of who was successful. And we also use that then for management training and sales training, so that they could help people to be more effective. And that's an important side effect here. But we like to use artificial intelligence as well, but with precautions. Artificial intelligence is extremely helpful, extremely valuable, but also has its backsides. And there's a lot of experience being built in HR now in how to use artificial intelligence in a proper way. And the main thing is, what you have to think about, artificial intelligence finds patterns very, very, very good. So in your data set, if there is a pattern, AI will bring that up. But the point is that might be a coincidence. So you have to validate your model again with a new set of data. And this has been proven quite some time, that sometimes in a data set, you find something and you say, well, this is the meaningful thing here, but you have to analyze it. There's an example that's used in universities, that they were training a model to discriminate between faces of people and faces of animals. It was just a learning experience for those students to find that out. And one group of students had 100% success. They had built a model that, if it's a face of a donkey or whatever, and a person, whoever, had 100% success. And others achieved like 80 or 90% success rate. And they were first year students, so that's great for them. And then it was tried out again, and what turned out to be the case is that this group of students downloaded the faces of animals from a specific site, and in those photos there was a slight watermark, hardly visible. So their model, what that model did was, hey, this photo, this picture, does it have this watermark, this little spot? And it could do that with 100% success. But any other photo, whatever, if it was a face of a snake or something, the model said, well, I don't see the watermark, so this must be a human. And so you have to really be careful what you do and to know what you're doing, and also to be able to explain what you've been doing. So take precautions in what to include in the data set as well. Like we described earlier, the opinions of the managers are not always that valid. So you have to take precaution. If you take that and include that into the model, then it might come up that it's not that relevant. But for example, if the opinion of the manager is very helpful in predicting the bonus of a person, and you have the bonus as a result, and you have the opinion of the manager as a result, then of course that will show up a relation. While this might be not so much connected to actual results like revenue and client satisfaction. And there are lots of cases now in data analysis that models use things that are not appropriate at all, like the city that people live in or age or whatever. So you have to clean up the data set real strong to include only relevant information. And we like to work with our clients to actually do that. And that includes also to test and validate the model. So when you're ready with the model and you have developed a model, you have to continuously test and modify it to compensate for any inappropriateness or accidental relationship that you do not want to have in the model. So this is a database. It's only unfortunately available if you have 100 plus salespersons. A lot of companies don't have that, but no worries. We can do a lot with the general predictors and also tune that into your specific situation. And after we've done that, we create a test program, an assessment program. And of course, personality, drivers or career values and intelligence, those are the backbone of online assessment. So that's really something to consider. But you might add games, psychometric games or video assessments to that. Video assessment for sales can be very, very effective. So the basic is that you present a case to your applicant, and they have to respond like I'm doing now in the camera, and that is happening via online. So they see a client situation, for example, a client saying, well, I'm really not happy with the product that you sold me. How can you compensate me? And then you have guidelines on how to deal with such a situation, and then the candidate has to respond. and you can see actually how they go about and see their behavior. And that's very helpful online. Another thing to consider are simulations, like management simulations or client simulations, or we can construct an inbox that you have to respond to email that you have received, and apply company rules there. And together this information is then loaded into the model, and you have a result saying, well, this person does or does not fit so much into the profile. And that also helps the interview, the job interview. You can go into the specific things more deeply, and to find out what's behind it, and then use all this information together with the resume and your interview to make a decision on who will join your team. So I'd like to point out one more thing before we close off. This is in Dutch, it should have been in English, I'm sorry about that. But we have a new generation of tests that are adaptive. Basically, how does this work? We have a database of questions, and we present one question, and we calculate the relevance of all the other questions in the database. So then you answer one question, and then the next question shows up that gives most information after your previous answer. Then you have answered 2 questions, and then we recalculate the relevance of the next question. So this way, we do need only 1/3 of the original questions to have a complete measurement of the model. And that also allows for online testing much more, because now a program with 3-4 tests only takes an hour, and an hour is about a maximum 45 minutes to an hour is the maximum time a candidate wants to spend online. And with adaptive testing, you can achieve that actually. So that will be, I think, is very important in the spread of using testing in the last few years. This is a relatively new technique that's been possible, because now it's not so boring for candidates to answer these questions. And it only takes 50 minutes instead of 45 minutes. You know, that's a totally different experience. And I sometimes say, well, if you go to a restaurant and you order a meal and you have to wait like 10-15 minutes, okay, that's acceptable. But if you have to wait 45 minutes, you know, that's upsetting, that's far too long. So the adaptive testing make it possible to include online assessments in selection procedures much more easy. So basically that's what we wanted to say. So please feel free to contact me if you want to try out a sales assessment or an online assessment for one or of your candidates or yourself. And then with my team, I'll set up an assessment program for you, and I will talk you through the results to help you to understand what the results are, and perhaps get the first experience with online testing for sales profiles. So I would like to conclude saying thank you for your time and the interest that you showed and that you made it till the end today. I'm open for chats. Please leave your comments and any question that you might have, and I would be more than happy to answer this. Thanks again. Hope to see you soon in real life. Bye bye.